So it's safe to say that the Bo Nickal hype train came to a screeching halt tonight, even though Bo Nickal won against Paul Craig. And you know what? Paul Craig looked way bigger than Bo Nickal in there. And if you know Paul Craig, he fought at light heavyweight also. So Bo Nickal didn't really try to shoot for a takedown. He tried to keep it up standing. But even then, there were times where Paul Craig looked like he could have caught Bo Nickal and really ended the hype train. Now, do I want to blame Bo Nickal 100%? No, because he did give a really insightful thing. How many pro fights has I had? How many pro fights has Paul Craig had? Okay, that's fair enough. But why did you do the golf thing at the end like it was your best performance? Now, if you had finished Paul Craig in the first round, like I honestly had a feeling you could have done, then yeah, no, that emote would have probably made it on the video game by like next week. But it was a severe underperformance for Bo Nickal's standard, especially when you're going against Paul Craig, who a lot of people are able to KO, and you just didn't have it. And it kind of showed that, yeah, no, despite all the cans that Bo Nickal has been crushing, you put him against someone like that, it's very safe to say that, you know, he's beatable once you reach those things. Now, I think, honestly, I would actually like to see Bo Nickal versus Joe Pyfer because I think it might help Joe Pyfer at this point. Unless Bo Nickal steps it up, Joe Pyfer could smoke Bo Nickal. Because Joe Pyfer's fought the who's who's. He's punched up into the rankings against the Jack Hermansons and still had close fights with those guys. And I know that we wanted to build Joe Pyfer and Bo Nickal up, but how long is Bo really going to last? Because you can't always just use the I don't have that many pro fights under my belt. If he fights someone like of a Paul Craig status next, like let's say, I think honestly also Shara probably would be an interesting fight for him at this point. Sharput Magomedov would probably be a step in the right direction because he could probably win that fight. Or Joe Pyfer. I'm not saying Bo Nickal is absolutely finished, but he doesn't have that aura around him anymore after tonight. And he's going to have to get it back in the future. I think it's doable. But one bad performance when you have this much hype, when the UFC has pushed you this hard. Yeah, he doesn't have that many pro fights. But most people who get to the UFC have a lot more pro fights by the time they get there. So then this kind of stuff, underperformance, isn't an issue. So they could keep the dominant performances going well into the rankings. So this whole thing is showing the power of marketing eventually, and that if Bo Nickal wants to practice what's being promised and deliver what's being promised to us through everything that they've been pushing through him, he's got a long way to go. He's got a lot of work. He's got a lot of lab work. All that stuff. I don't want to just be a pessimist and now just completely turn on Bo Nickal because I'm not. But I got to call it like I saw it, that this was his worst performance ever. And I know he's probably a little jazzed up because, yeah, you know what? He is right in that sense. I want to give him that. He went up against his toughest opponent yet, still came out on top via decision. So, yeah, you did well. But honestly, if I were in his shoes, I'd be probably looking down saying, I got a lot of stuff to get to work on. And then I get to work on that. But that's what I think. The hype train needs some grease on it. And I think Joe Pyfer might actually be dangerous for Bo Nickal. So Bo Nickal is probably going to want to face like, I could say Kevin Holland, maybe Chris Weidman, because the Eric Anders fight got canceled. But also maybe Shara would definitely be good because then you could out-wrestle Shara and then really put on a stamp against someone who has hype behind them and who is getting more momentum. Because Shara, as much as he has started and kind of been a little underwhelming, his last performance did surprise me and did really well. But just some options. I know it's a little bit, what are we going to do next in this phase? Well, I'm not part of we. I'm just giving my thoughts on it. But I think he's got to pick wisely. Peace out.